ignorant and weary and invincible. She seeks through the soul's war and quivering pain the pure perfection her marred nature needs. A breath of Godhead on her stone and mire. A light grows in her. She assumes a voice. Her state she learns to read, and the act she has done. But the one needed truth eludes her grasp. Herself and all of which she is the sign.
Good morning. We're reading in Book 1, Canto 4, The Secret Knowledge. After having been introduced to Savitri and the beginning of Aswapati's yoga and his initial spiritual realization, in this canto we take kind of a pause to look at the knowledge that Aswapati has gained in his yoga in the first stages. And just to recap a few of the key lines that we've been reading, on page 46 in the middle, he realizes that a death-bound littleness is not all we are. Immortal our forgotten vastnesses await discovery in our summit selves. Unmeasured breadths and depths of being are ours. That was on page 46 in the middle. And then on page 49, at the break, says, but all is screened, subliminal, mystical. It needs the intuitive heart, the inward turn. It needs the power of a spiritual gaze. So that inner knowledge that could be ours is not easy to achieve. It needs that inward turn, that inward concentration. And normally, what we experience on kind of the bottom of page 52, Sri Aurobindo says, absorbed in a routine of daily acts, our eyes are fixed on an external scene. We hear the crash of the wheels of circumstance and wonder at the hidden cause of things. Yet a foreseeing knowledge might be ours if we could take our spirit stand within, if we could hear the muffled daemon voice. So now we're at page 60 at the top. And, yes, I think maybe you could read if you like. Page 60 at the top.
Here, meanwhile, at the spirit's opposite pole, in the mystery of the deeps that God has built, for his abode below the thinker's sight, in this compromise of a stark absolute truth, with the light that dwells near the dark end of things, in this tragic evening of divine disguise, this long fast season for joy evermore, in the grandiose dream of which the world is made, in this gold dome on a black dragon base, the conscious force that acts in nature's bliss, a dark-robed laborer in the cosmic scene, carrying clay images of unborn gods, executrix of the inevitable idea, hampered, enveloped by the hoops of fate, patient trustee of slow eternal time, absorbs from hour to hour her secret charge. All foresees in Mars' imperative depths the dumb intention of the unconscious goals, answers to a will that sees upon the heights, and the evolving word's first syllable, ponderous root sense, contains its luminous close, privy to a summit victory's vast descent, and the portent of the soul's immense uprise.
Thank you.
What does it exactly mean?
Hoop.
Okay.
A hoop is a circle, and it can be, I mean, huh? A noose? Yeah, I mean, there's like a hula hoop, which is something that they put around you, a circle, and it's like a toy or something and you can kind of shake and it goes around. But it's something that you have to go through. It's something that you're caught in.
Enveloped by the hoops.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, these are just, you could say, like the circles in which we're caught sometimes.
in Zen, it's like it's always a circle. It goes back again and again. It's like
Yeah.
a groove, no?
Yes.
It's like where it seems to be caught. That never-ending
Yes.
hoop.
Material determination. Yeah, that's kind of the idea behind it. Like he was kind of saying the grooves of fate that we get caught in. Well, we have here one of these tremendously long sentences of Sri Aurobindo's. And in the beginning, it's kind of, first this kind of long clause in which he's saying here, in the appearance of our life now, at the spirit's opposite pole, the opposite pole being matter, in the mystery of the deeps that God has built, for his abode, for his home, below the thinker's sight, at the lower end of nature. And he calls it a compromise. In this compromise of a stark absolute truth with the light that dwells near the dark end of things. So it's a compromise between the truth and the darkness, the dark end.
The next one is interesting. Tragicomedy.
Yeah, the tragicomedy of divine disguise. Because the divine is also here. This is also the divine, but it's as if the divine is wearing a disguise. So it's tragic in a sense, but it's also a comedy because also it's only the divine that is kind of carrying this disguise.
So playing the divine comedy play, no? Yes. This long are seeking for joy ever near.
Yeah, always seeking outside for happiness, for joy, for contentment, when if we could only turn within, it would be right there.
Yes.
This gold dome on a black dragon base. This dragon base is that lower end of matter, where also there are dark forces at work, at play.
That reminds me of Matrimony. It's the dome that's coming out of the base, no? It's beautiful.
And then he says, the conscious force that acts in nature's breast. So within nature and what seems to be kind of mechanical processes of nature, there is a conscious force that's working through that, working in that. Calls it a dark-robed laborer, because it's hidden. It's hidden in these dark robes.
Conscious force is very important, no? In Sanskrit, we call it Chit Shakti, the consciousness force.
Conscious force, right. And that also we refer to as the mother.
Yes, that's right.
And of which Savitri is an incarnation of that.
In this context, can you speak a bit the next line, carrying clay images of unborn gods?
You're the clay.
Yeah, at present, these gods, these, let's say, higher consciousness, forces of the higher consciousness that are yet to be unveiled, to be realized here on earth, but we carry kind of clay images of them. We worship these kind of images of them, kind of lacking still that deeper spiritual identification with those divine forces. But we hold up these images of them and revere, worship those.
Or maybe it's referring to the human beings. Like nature is it's a conscious force that's acting. It's a laborer, sort of laborer, and it's making clay images of ultimately God, but now human beings.
Yeah.
And that makes more sense to me.
Nature.
All the 2-3 sentences. Like nature
is the dark robe laborer.
Gods of making human beings, which are raw material for gods. Sense that.
Even in other cultures, we are mentioned that we are sculpted from clay. No? Yes.
So we're the clay images. Could be. So again, this conscious force is the executrix of the inevitable idea. So she's working out some idea, a divine idea of what is to be. Slowly she carries that out through the process of evolution.
And I like that word, no? Inevitable. It's bound to happen.
It must happen.
It's unstoppable.
But it is also inevitable in the graduation that Auroville has made of his realizations. For example, in speech or in speech in particular, there is something he calls the inevitable word, and it is really the highest, the very highest, the supreme. So the inevitable here refers to that.
Inevitable idea.
Inevitable in the sense of that it's an expression of the truth.
Yeah, of the supreme truth. Just
and it also implies evolution because it's not yet, but it's inevitable.
Yeah, in those next lines he's saying.
Executrice of inevitable idea for me is Auroville. He received before, long time in Savitri bed, the city of God.
So she saw, Mother saw the city before.
Inevitable idea, the city of God. Alors, coming, 68.
Yes, it is here.
It existed on another plane of being, of consciousness.
So we can rejoice.
But hampered.
Yeah, the evolution.
Enveloped by the hoops of fate.
the resistance.
Patient trustee of slow, eternal time.
Magaling, very passion. So what does he mean exactly by absolves commandment to our secret charge?
I think she carries out gradually from hour to hour. She's carrying out that inevitable idea, but in slow steps.
Because in French, absoud means to forgive a sin. But and here,
Yeah, I didn't look it up and see the other meanings, but I think it's carrying out.
okay.
Yeah, secret charge is like Earth's charge, and nature's charge is ultimately to make gods. That's it. I mean, help in evolution. That's a secret. Actually, it's mechanically it's working. But as a secret charge, ultimate aim is to help evolution. That's what you see. But then it's slow and it goes round and round.
Yeah, and eternal time is very interesting, no? Because time never stops. No? It's always happening from one palaya to the next. It never stops.
And nature is patient.
Super patient.
Unlike us, who he says somewhere, we're spurred by this brief life, to act. We want to see the change, the culmination come quickly. But this conscious force, she foresees in her masked imperative depths the dumb intention of the unconscious gulfs. So unconsciously, nature is acting, is carrying out this will, but it has an intention of where it's going. Answers to a will that sees upon the heights. And then he goes back again to that metaphor that he's used kind of throughout this canto. The evolving word's first syllable, ponderous, brute-sensed, contains its luminous close. So that's like that intention was there from the very beginning for what was to come. Privy to a summit victory's vast descent. So it knows, it's privy, it's in the know, kind of this conscious force, to a summit victory's vast descent, that it will descend into this world. And the portent.
Portent means carrying.
It means omen, prophetic indication of the soul's immense uprise.
But those three lines are very indicative of what's happening, because it says brute sense, no? It's not the same. There is a revolution that is happening that you need the force, no? No, you cannot be like very Tamasic. Nothing will happen from that. No, so that's why.
Yeah, he's saying that first syllable of the word. It's kind of slow, ponderous, brute-sensed. It's still brute. It's still brutish.
No, brutish.
Yeah.
Yeah, but why sense?
Its senses are dull.
Yes, no, it's the beginning. Until the luminous core.
It contains that kind of secretly.
That's why now you can see the earlier beings are very brutal, no?
Yeah.
Humans are very brutal species.
Oh.
Yes.
There is when we are understanding the evolving word syllable, first syllable, is this the R letter? What would be the word's first syllable?
Well, he's been using this kind of metaphor of this word a number of times, and he talks about, kind of the open vowels at either end, which are kind of infinite, we could say, and then in between this closed consonant, which is kind of our limited world. And here he's using that metaphor a little bit differently. He's saying the beginning letter of the word contains the end, contains the final also within it. So he's not necessarily specifying any particular alphabet or A or B or whatever, but it's a metaphor for the beginning of things, matter, and the end of things, kind of this spiritual realization and transformation of matter, the spirit's immense descent into matter,
Or uprise.
and the uprise of the soul.
The word also implies vibration.
Yeah.
It's like the energy of vibration that starts everything.
I think it is more and more from translation from the Bengali writing from Sri Auroville. Somewhere also I take part in Vladimir's blasting on Sanskrit and the letters, the vowels. And Sri Auroville had searched in it and had written down the first thing. And it is said that Krishna in jail gave Sri Auroville the knowledge how the language came out. And so he Sri Auroville wrote down first things, how the language developed. With the vowel sounds, and from the vowel sound everything goes forward.
And kind of like Zach was saying about these coming from vibrations, these sounds, right? Out of the initial kind of vibrations.
I still have a problem with brute sense. How can a word be brute sense?
Brute sense?
Yeah, what do you mean? A word which is brute sense.
No, there is senses can be very delicate, or senses can be very rude.
Yeah, a word.
Yeah.
A word.
Yeah, even a vibration or a sound can be kind of brutish.
No, I don't think it's connected to the brutish. I think the creation they also say creation started with a word, like vibration word.
Yeah.
Zero time they say. The creation was with a word also they say. It's referring to the ultimate truth of creation.
So it's a metaphor for that,
Yes.
right? So there's an underlying significance of it.
Yes.
But, also the metaphor should kind of hang together and make sense, like she's saying, right? But in a sense, I think some words sound very rough and some words sound, very refined.
Okay, I understand, but sense.
To our senses. To our sensibilities, even.
Important omen, prediction, prophecy, warning.
Now, I think to continue, I don't think we've read through the rest of this. So I suggest that we continue and just read through, and then we'll go back and discuss afterwards. I think we can maybe go to the end of the canto now. And perhaps Helmut would begin.
All here, where each thing seems its lonely self, are figures of the soul transcendent one. Only by him they are. His breath is their life. An unseen presence molds the oblivious clay. A playmate in the mighty mother's game, one came upon the dubious world below to hide from her pursuit in force and form. A secret spirit in the unconscious sleep, a shapeless energy, a voiceless word. He was here before elements could emerge, before there was light of mind or life could breathe. Accomplice of her cosmic huge pretence, his semblances he turns to real shapes and makes the symbol equal with the truth. He gives you his timeless thoughts of form and time. He is the substance. He is the self of things. She has forged from him her works of skill and mind. She wraps him in the magic of her needs and makes his myriad truths her countless dreams. The master of being has come down, an immortal child born in the fugitive years. In objects wrought, in the person she conceives, dreaming she chases her idea of him and catches here a look and there a jest. Ever he repeats in them his ceaseless birth.
Thank you. Zach, would you like to?
He is the maker and the world he made. He is the vision and he is the seer. He is himself the actor in the act. He is himself the knower and the known. He is himself the dreamer and the dream. There are two who are one and play in many worlds. In knowledge and ignorance they have spoken and met, and light and darkness are their eyes interchanged. Our pleasure and pain are their wrestle and embrace. Our ease, our hopes are intimate to their tale. They are married secretly in our thought and life. The universe is an endless masquerade, for nothing here is utterly what it seems. It is a dream fact vision of a truth which, but for the dream, would not be wholly true. A phenomenon stands out significant against dim backgrounds of eternity. We accept its face and pass by all it means. A part is seen, we take it for the whole. Thus have they made their play with us for roles. Author and actor with himself as seen. He moves there as the soul, as nature she.
Thank you. You continue.
Here on the earth, where we must clean our paths, we know not how shall run the traveler's course? Our uttered sentences will in their thought. Her mighty plan she has cut from our sight. She has concealed her glory and her bliss, and disguised the love in her heart. Of all the marvel and beauty that are hers, only a darkened little we can feel. He too wears the diminished Godhead here. He has forsaken his omnipotence. His time he has forgone, and infinity. He knows her only. He has forgotten himself. To her he abandons all to make her bread. He hopes in her to find himself anew, incarnate, wedded with infinity's peace to her creative passion's ecstasy.
Thank you. Tineke.
Although possessor of the earth and heavens, he leaves to her the cosmic management and watches all, the witness of her seed. The superluminary ray on his lips, he speaks no words or hides behind the wings. He takes birth in her world, waits on her will, divines her enigmatic gesture sense, the fluctuating chance of her mood, works out her meanings she seems not to know, and serves her secret purpose in long time. As one too great for him, he worships her. He adores her as his reasonable desire. He yields to her as the mover of his will. He burns the incense of his nights and days, offering his life, a splendor of sacrifice. A rapt solicitor for her love and grace. His bliss in her to him is his holy word. He grows through her in all his being's powers. He reads by her God's hidden aim and his.
Thank you. Sudan.
For the courtiers, we have countless beauty, content to beauty with her and keep with her. He makes the most of the little that she gives, and all she does, that's with his own delight. He plans and make his whole day wonderful. He walks from her lips, with happiness brings out. He beams on her for all the dark and peace. He weeps on her the righteousness, and our Jesus is found fortunate grief, and craves his peacock image joy now, and sounds in the twinkle of her cousin's love. In a thousand ways she sounds how God breathes. He makes clouds before God color, makes all make her peace, all is that way. His broken water word is only he and she.
Thank you. Nari.
This is the knot that ties together the stars. The two who are one are the secret of all power. The two who are one are the might and right in things. His soul, silent, supports the world and earth. His acts are her commandments registers. Happy, inert, he lies beneath her feet. His best he offers for the cosmic dance, of which our lives are the quivering theatre, and none would bear but for his strength within, yet none would leave because of his delight. His works, his thoughts have been devised by her, his being the mirror vast of hers. Practic, Inspired of her, he speaks and moves. His deeds obey her heart's unspoken demands. Passive, he bears the impacts of the world as if her touches shaping his soul and life. His journey through the days is her sun march. He runs upon her roads, hers is his course. A witness and student of her joy and woe, a partner in her evil and her good. He has ascended through her passionate waves. He is driven by her sweet and dreadful force.
Thank you. Sir, back, would you? Got election.
He sanctioned men initiate all her works. His silence is signature to her deeds. In the execution of her drama scheme, in her fancy of the moment and its mood, in the march of this obvious, ordinary world, where all is deep and strange to the eyes that see, and nature common form of marvel with its. She through his witness sight and motion of mind unrolls the material of her cosmic act. Her happenings that exalt and smooth the soul, her force that moves, her powers that save and slay, her warmth that is a silent speaks in our hearts, her silence that transcends the sun world, her heights and deeds to which our spirit moves. Events that weave the texture of our needs, and all by which we find or lose ourselves. Things sweet and bitter, magnificent and mean, things terrible and beautiful and divine.
Thank you. Sir, would you like to?
Her empire in the cosmos she has built is governed by her subtle and mighty laws. His consciousness is a wave upon her deeds. His being the field of a vast experiment. The endless space, the playground of his thoughts. She binds to knowledge of the shapes of man and the created errors of limited mind, and chance that wears the rigid face of faith. And the support of death and pain and science. His changed and struggling immortality. His soul is a subtle atom in a mass. His substance a material for her works. His spirit survives amid the death of things. He climbs to eternity through being's gaps. He is carried by her from night to deathless light. His grand surrender is his previous gift. His grand surrender is his previous gift. His pure transcendent force submits to her.
Thank you. Margaret?
In the mystery of her cosmic ignorance, in the exquisite rhythm of her play, a creature made of the sun, the pattern she has set for him, he moves. He sings with her thoughts, with her trouble, his golden ears. He seems to think that she would have him see. He is whatever the artist will can make. Or she drives him on her fancy's roads, at play with him as with a child or slave, to freedom and the eternal's mastery, and immortality's stand above the world. She moves her, seeming puppet of an hour. Even in his mortal session in body's house, an aimless traveler between birth and death, ephemeral, dreaming of immortality. To reign, she stirs him. He takes up her powers. He has harnessed her to the joke of her own law.
Thank you. Vasundhara?
He had harnessed her to the yoke of her own love. His face of human thought puts on a crown, held in a leash, bound to her veiled caprice. He studies her ways, if so he may prevail, even for an hour, and she work out his will. He makes of her his moment passion's serve. To obey she prays, she follows her creature's lead. For him she was made, lives only for his use. But conquering her, then is he most her slave. He is her dependent, all his needs are hers. Nothing without her he can, she rules him still. At last he wakes to a memory of self. He sees within the face of deity. The Godhead breaks out through the human mold. Her highest heights she unmasks and is his mate. Till then, he is a plaything in her game, her seeming creation, yet her fancy's toy. A living hope, moved by her energy's thrills. He acts as in the movements of a dream, an automation, stepping in the grooves of fate. He stumbles on driven by her wit or force. His thought labors, a bullock in time's fields. His will he thinks his own, is shaped in her forge.
Thank you. Tim?
Obedient to world nature's dumb control, driven by his own formidable power, his chosen partner in a titan game. Her will he has made the master of his fate, her whim the dispenser of his pleasure and pain. He has sold himself into her regal power, for any blow or burn that she may choose. Even in what is suffering to our sense, he feels the sweetness of the mastering touch. In all experience meets a blissful pain. On his heart he bears the happiness of her tread, and the strides of her arrival's joy. In each event and every moment's chance, all she can do is marvelous in his sight. He revels in her, a swimmer in her sea, a timeless amateur of her world delight. He rejoices in her every thought and act, and gives consent to all that she can wish. Whatever she desires, he wills to be, the Spirit, the innumerable one. He has left behind his lone eternity. He is an endless birth in time, in endless time, a finite multitude in an infinite space.
Thank you. Nitya. Nitya.
The Master of Existence lurks in us and plays at hide and seek with his own force. In nature's instrument loiters a secret world. The eminent lives in man as his house, He has made the universe his pastimes field, a vast gymnasium of his works of mind. All-knowing, he accepts our darkened state, divine, red, shaped, animal, or man. Eternal, he ascends to create man. Immortal, that is immortality. The all-conscious venture into ignorance. The all-blissful goes to be insensitive. Incarnate in a world of strife and pain. He puts on joy and sorrow like a robe, and brings experience like a strengthening one. He whose transcendence rules the pregnant and vast. Prescient now dwells in our sublime depths. A luminous individual power alone.
Thank you.
The absolute, the perfect, the alone, has called out of the silence this mute force, where she lay in the featureless and formless hush, guarded from time by her infinite sleep, the ineffable innocence of her sanctity. The absolute, the perfect, the alone, has entered with his silence into space. He has fashioned these countless persons of one self. He has built a million figures of his power. He lives in all who lived in his vast world. Space is himself, and time is only the absolute, the perfect, the unique, one who is in us as our secrets. Our mask of imperfection has assumed. He has made this tenement of flesh his own, his image in the human measure cast, that to his divine measure we might rise. Then in a figure of divinity, the Maker shall recast us, and impose a plan of Godhead on mortal's own, lifting our finite minds to his infinite, touching the moment with eternity.
Thank you. Miho.
Distress iteration is always due to heaven, a mutual debt binds men to the supreme. His nature we must put on as he put on ours. We are sons of God and must be given as he. His human motion we must grow divine. Our life is a paradox, the darkness for peace. But meanwhile, all is a shadow past, I dream, and to the musing and immobile sleep, life and himself don the aspect of a myth, the burden of a long, unmeaning tale. For the key is hid, and by the inconscient kept, the secret guard beneath the threshold dwells, in a body obscuring the immortal spirit, a nameless brilliant, vesting unseen powers, with metals, shapes, and motives beyond thought, and the hazard of an unguessed consequence, an omnipotent, indiscernible influence. He sits unfed
by the form in which he lives, and veils his knowledge by the broken mind.
Thank you. Anati.
A wandering in the world, his thoughts have made. He stands in a careless pool of error and truth, to find wisdom that untie his his. As one forgetting, he searched for himself, as he had lost an even life of his sins. As a junior idea and the things, he journeys the home he knows no more. His own self-truth he seeks with the truth. He is a prayer who became prayer. He is a thinker who became thought. He is a melody who has decided. In the simple stream of the cosmic force, and we have living and inanimate signs, and we have complex density of events. He explores the ceaseless miracle of himself. Till the thousandfold enigma has been solved in the single light of an all-witnessing soul. This was his compact with his mighty mate. Love of her and joy with her forever. Follow the course of time's eternity, and the magic dramas of her sudden moods, and the surprises of her masked idea, and the vicissitudes of her vast caprice.
Thank you. Ma'am, would you continue?
Two think its goals, yet ever are they one, and gaze at each other over bournless time. Spirit and matter are their end and source, a sequel of hidden meanings in life's forms, of the great mother's wide, uncharted will, and the rude enigma of her terrestrial ways. He is the explorer and the mariner on a secret inner ocean without port. He is the adventurer and cosmologist of a matter Earth's obscure geography. In her material order's fixed design, where all seems sure, and even when changed, the same. Even though the end is left forever unknown, and ever unstable is life's shifting flow, his paths are found for him by silent fate, as stations in the ages' weltering flood. Firm lands appear that tempt and stay a while. Then new horizons lure the mind's advance. There comes no close to the finite's boundlessness. There is no last certitude in which thought can pause, and no terminus to the soul's experience. A limit, a farthest never wholly reached. An unattained perfection calls to him from distant boundaries in the unseen. A long beginning only has been made.
Thank you. Help. Helmet, would you continue?
This is the sailor on the float of time. This is world matters slow discovery, who, lost into this small corporeal world, has learned his craft in tiny ways of self, but dares at last uncomprehending truths. A voyager of from parentheses. In his word, Adventure's crude initial start, behold him ignorant of his God and its force, timid initiate of his vast design, an expert captain of a fragile car, a trafficker in small impermanent ways. At first he hugs the shore and shuns the waves, dares not to confront the cloud of perilous name. He in a petty coastal traffic plies, his pay doled out from port to neighbor port, content with his safe round's unchanging course. He hazards not the new and the unseen.
Thank you. But now he hears the sound of larger seas. A widening world calls him to distant scenes and journeyings in a larger vision's arc, in peoples unknown and still unvisited shores. On a commissioned keel, his merchant hull serves the world's commerce in the riches of time, severing the foam of a great landlocked sea to reach unknown harbor lights in distant climes, and open markets for life's opulent arts, rich bales, carved statuettes, hued canvases, and jeweled toys brought for an infant's play, imperishable products of hard toil, and transient splendors won and lost by the days. Or passing through a gate of pillar rocks, venturing not yet to cross oceans unnamed and journey into a dream of distances, he travels close to unfamiliar coasts and finds new haven in storm-troubled isles, or, guided by a sure compass in his thought, he plunges through a bright haze that hides the stars, steering on the trade routes of ignorance.
We are passing to the sister. You haven't read yet.
She read.
Everybody read. It's the second round.
And what line is it now?
His prow pushes.
His prow pushes towards undiscovered shores. He chances on unimagined continents, a seeker of the islands of the blessed. He leaves the last lands, crosses the ultimate seas. He turns to eternal things, his symbol quest. Life changes for him, its time-constructed scenes, its images veiling infinity. Earth's borders recede, and the terrestrial air hangs round him no longer its translucent veil. He has crossed the limit of mortal thought and hope. He has reached the world's end, and stares beyond. The eyes of mortal body plunge their gaze into eyes that look upon eternity. A greater world time's traveler must explore. At last he hears a chanting on the heights, and the far speaks, and the unknown grows near. He crosses the boundaries of the unseen, and passes over the edge of mortal sight to a new vision of himself and things. He is a spirit in an unfinished world that knows it not and cannot know itself. The surface symbol of his goalless quest takes deeper meanings to his inner view. His is a search of darkness for the light, of mortal life for immortality.
Thank you.
In the vessel of an earthly embodiment, over the narrow rails of limiting sense, he looks out on the magic waves of time, where mind, like a moon, illumines the world star. There is limbed ever retreating from the eyes, as if in the tenuous, misty, dreamlike dawn, the outline of the dim, mysterious shore. The sailor on the unconscious, fathomless sea, he voyages through a starry world of thought, on matter's deck to a spiritual sun, across the noise and multitudinous cry, across the rapt, unknowable silences, through a strange mid-world under supernal sky, beyond Earth's longitudes and latitudes. His goal is fixed outside all present maps. But who learns whether through the unknown he sails, or what secret mission the Great Mother gave. In the hidden strength of her omnipotent will, driven by her breath across life's tossing sea, through the thunder's roar and through the windless crash, through fog and mist, where nothing more is seen. He carries her sealed orders in his breast.
Thank you. Tineke?
Late will we know, opening the mystic spirit, whether to a blank port in the unseen he goes, or, armed with a field, to discover a new mind and body in the city of God, and enshrine the immortal in this glorious house, and make the finite one with infinity. Across the salt waste of the endless years, where ocean winds impel his fairy boat, the cosmic waters split passionate as he goes, a rumor around him in danger and a calm. Always he follows in her force's wake. He sails through life and death and other life. He travels on through waking and through sleep. A power is on him from the occult force that ties him to his own creation's fate. And never can the mighty traveler rest, and never can the mystic voyage cease, till the nesting dust is lifted from man's soul, and the horns of God are overtaken his eye.
Thank you. Sudanya, very loudly.
Yeah.
As long as nature loves, beauty is there. But this is true that he and she are one. Even when he sleeps, keeps sunlight on his breast. Whoever wakes up, he will not be bothered. To repose without her in the unearthly. That is, it means to know what to do. Her play is real, and necessarily it is. There is a diamond in the mother's deep, royal blue, a purpose in her heart and random way. This evolves and remains since the first dawn of life, this constant grip she covered in her skin. To behold a person in the impersonal void, with the truth light strike off messy roots of stones. What, what the ground self in the emotion head, and rise the lost fall from its vibrant sleep, that the eyes of the timeless mind behold from time, and the world manifest the unveiled divine, or whose he left his might in and laid on the street the waters of his, that hearts not fall in mindless bliss.
Thank you.
You know, in 1931, a new mind and body in the city of God. Voilà. I tell you about what was a dream one time. City of God, you, you, body.
Hmm. So you're saying Auroville again?
Not only, but all.
Hmm.
I'm living in Auroville.
One day will be.
So these final lines really punctuate the secret knowledge. This is. I think maybe we stop.
11:40.
Huh?
11:40. You want to have some music?
Yeah, we have some. We can have music, I think. We'll go back then for next time.
Ignorant and weary and invincible. She seeks through the soul's warm and quivering pain the pure perfection her marred nature needs. A breath of Godhead on her stone and mire. A light grows in her. She assumes a voice. Her state she learns to read, and the act she has done. But the one needed truth eludes her grasp. Herself and all of which she is the sign.
Thanks to Sri Aurobindo.